Welcome back, everybody. We are answering your questions today. We answered a bunch in the previous section, or a couple, because as I was saying to Shannon in the break, I clearly can't give a short answer to save my life. So anyway, let's jump right back in and see how many more we can get through.
Definitely. You know too much, Beth. It's your fatal flaw.
Well, I don't know if it's that, but okay.
So the next question came in from another Facebook follower. It says, hello, college coach. We love your podcast. It is so helpful. So thank you for that. I have a question about test optional rules. What if your student has major challenges with the ACT, but actually gets good AP test scores? Can you hold back ACT scores, but share AP scores? Is it all or nothing?
It is not all or nothing. Obviously, each school may have their own different policy about this, and it's possible that they might say, hey, if you don't want us to consider test scores, we're just not going to consider any of your test scores. The AP scores never have to be officially reported. There's a place on the application where you can opt to report them. And I certainly would encourage that if the student is doing well in the APs. I don't think there's any harm in that. And there is absolutely no requirement that ACTs or SATs accompany those. In fact, there are actually a number of institutions, NYU comes to mind, that have what we call test flexible options, in which case you can submit, I don't actually know where they're at this particular year, but in the past it has been the ACT or the SAT or 2 subject tests or a couple of AP scores, right? So they're willing to consider whatever testing really works for you. I love those test flexible policies. Of course, if you're someone for whom testing in general is not a strength, it doesn't work as well as full-on test optional, but I would say that unless specifically called out by the school, and it is a situation where you might actually have to call, I would be very comfortable not submitting ACT or SAT scores and submitting AP scores. So go for it.
Perfect. That one was pretty short and sweet, Beth. Great job. And this question came in through Instagram. So that's another avenue to reach out. You can DM us on Instagram. But this follower says, I have a junior. Because of COVID-19, there's a lot of talk about current seniors, the class of 2020, taking a gap year. Does that impact admissions for juniors, the class of 2021? Will they be now competing for the same spots?
Yeah, this is one of those questions that is now kind of bubbling up frequently. We're hearing this a lot. The answer, unfortunately, right now is that we don't fully know. What we do know is that not all colleges are allowing gap years. So just because students are talking about how they are going to take one, not all schools are saying, yes, you can. So in that case, it may be that students have the school that they really want to go to, and the school says, nope, you can't take a gap year. And they say, well, I don't really want to reapply. I'm just going to go, and I'm not going to take the gap year. And I guess I'm just going to deal with whatever comes at me. Then it's possible that at those schools that some of those students might then fully decline the offer and be in the applicant pool next year. I also think that what we might see is a decrease in the number of international students who want to come to the US. So there's a population that may opt not to apply, so they may not be in the applicant pool. I think the other thing that we are reading about, and this is more from a financial perspective, is that there are certainly students and families who had every intention of pursuing a 4-year college this year who now have decided that they're not going to take that path at all right now. And maybe they're going to go the community college route. Maybe they're going to work for a year or two. So there's certainly no guarantee that they will even end up in next year's applicant pool either. I tend to think that if it's going to be an issue, it's going to be a greater issue that there may be fewer applicants than there have been in the past, than that there are going to be more. But again, we really don't know. Not all colleges are being necessarily upfront. I do know from some conversations we've been having that we're seeing some colleges actually pull students from the deny pile. So they've already gone through their wait list and now they're going to the denies. And we also know of at least one institution that is oversubscribed for the coming year, meaning too many students accepted their offer of admission. So as with everything in college admissions, you really can't make a blanket statement. I do anticipate that it isn't going to get appreciably easier to get into the most selective schools. I think those are the places where people are the most willing to stretch and might be the most willing to say, well, you're not going to allow me to defer. I'm going to go anyway, because at the end of these 4 years, I'm still going to have a degree from this institution.
Right.
And actually, one thing that I didn't mention is that at least one institution, Stanford, has said to their accepted student group, you can ask for a gap year deferral, but we require that you ask by June 15th. So they put a cap on not necessarily how many they will grant, but the date by which they are willing to grant it. So if you haven't asked for your deferral by June 15th, then you are going to either let go of your acceptance altogether, or you're going to enroll and start in the fall along with everybody else, regardless of what that looks like.
Interesting. Have they said, are they going to announce if classes are going to be in person or online by June 15th so people can make informed decisions about that?
Yes, they are. They have committed to announcing that beforehand. But, a school like UMass here in our home state, I don't believe it's a new policy that's COVID related. I believe they had announced this previously, but they're not going to be accepting deferrals. Their policy is they don't do deferrals. So if you got in and now you're deciding that you aren't ready to go, you need another year, then their requirement is that you actually reapply in the coming year. And that is actually at the state school level. I do think we might see a surge in applications at those schools because of financial reasons and also because of a desire not to go too far from home. Yeah. So there's going to be that piece to take into consideration as well in the coming year. So I don't really think I answered your question, but that's mostly because there isn't an answer right now. And the only thing we can promise is that as these pieces become clearer, we're going to let you know. But also, if you really want to be applying to school next year and you're a junior, you're going to apply anyway, right?
Right. So it's like we say, I think we say it all the time, we control what you can, which is putting your best foot forward on your application. Yes. The rest of it, you can't control it, let it go.
Exactly. Good advice.
So the next question comes in from Eddie, and he says, around this time last year, Apply Texas changed their essay topic. And Common App informed the applicants that the 1920 prompts would remain the same. When do you think we will get an update regarding these essay topic changes, if any? I want to get my current juniors as ready as possible.
God, I love it. Eddie, I think you are a counselor, and I love that you're tuning in. I think we do have a decent number of school counselors who join the podcast, and I hope you find it valuable. And this is part of the reason we do this. We want to support as many people as possible in achieving their higher ed goals. So I love that you're asking this question. I am going to apologize, though, because I think you may have asked this question a few months ago. And so by now you may be saying, well, I already know the answer to that. But just in case anyone out there doesn't, or in case, Eddie, you haven't found the answer to it yet, I think the three major big, and actually four, I would add the coalition to that as well, the big applications that are out there, the UC application, the Apply Texas application, the Common application, the coalition application, have, I believed, all come out and said no changes. All the prompts from last year will be the prompts from this year. And so therefore, for anyone looking to work ahead or who is thinking about starting on their essays, you can absolutely, you could have been doing that, and you certainly can continue to do that. They are not getting rid of or changing those questions. The one caveat I always want to throw out there is that there are schools who have additional essays that they require, supplemental essays, and some will let you know, like, hey, it hasn't changed. So if you're on their mailing list, they may have already reached out and said, these are our questions for the coming year, or these are our questions, they're the same as last year, or we're doing new questions and here they are. But until they officially, sort of make those available, it is a risky business to be answering supplemental questions from last year because they might change. You kind of don't know. So usually they are going to let you know no later than August. My hope is that this year, given everything that's going on, that they will either decide just like, we're going to stick with what we have, or if they change it, that they are doing it now and making everyone available. I realize that I'm sure if you're listening and you're from a college, you're saying, well, isn't that really nice and easy for you to say? And I totally appreciate that. But from a student perspective, it would be really excellent if those were out as soon as possible.
Right, because it is a great time while you're stuck at home to get an early start on those essays for sure.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Our next question is another foreign language one, I think from May. And she says, my son is a high school freshman who would like to take Spanish online at our local community college over the summer instead of through his high school. His high school has 85-minute blocks, so it's difficult to fit in courses he has a passion for or electives. How would selective colleges view this alternate path for foreign language? He has 1 year of Spanish done from middle school and could take Spanish 102, 201, and 202 through the local community college over his 3 summers left in high school. The high school foreign language department will not approve it, stating their courses are more rigorous. Not sure if this is a concern for maintaining students in their classes or an actual fact. He does not need more high school Florida credits for graduation, so our guidance counselor said he could still go ahead with the community college classes, although they would not appear on his high school transcript. Wondering if he should reach out to some admissions offices at colleges he would be applying to someday for advice, or if your experts have an opinion on this issue.
Right. I do have an opinion on this issue. It was a long question. Did she specify the schools? Were they highly selective or did she not specify?
She says, how would selective colleges view this alternate path for foreign language?
So in general, selective colleges would not love it. What the school is saying is in essence how it is perceived in admissions and is generally, I think, true, which is that taking the foreign language outside of the school is usually not as rigorous as taking it in the school. If it was a more traditional foreign language path, it was, I think she specified it was online. Was it online at the community college?
Community college.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So an online community college class is not going to be perceived as having the same level of rigor as the class that your son could take in the high school. And the other thing that concerns me about it is if he's looking at the selectives, and this goes back to the very first question I answered, he will only ultimately have 3 years of this in high school and not 4. And if he took it during the school year, he would have 4 years. And that would be perceived, again, as a better thing. So you mentioned that it doesn't leave as much time for subjects he has a passion for and electives. And so here is where, unfortunately, this isn't really the time or the place to necessarily focus on only the things that you really are most interested in. Again, math, science, English, history, and foreign language should be the priority and should be the priority for all 4 years of school. And so if it was a situation where he had math, science, English, history, and they just literally couldn't fit the Spanish in, then yes, you could look at the online option and ask the counselor to note in the letter of support that he wanted to take it at the school, but it literally couldn't fit. But if you are opting for some kind of elective that isn't one of those 4 or 5 cores, and it's maybe even doubling up on one of the other cores, that is not going to be ideal. And I would say look to take those pieces outside of the school rather than taking a core outside of the school. So my advice would be, certainly he could call some of the colleges. I'm not sure they're always as helpful here. They might say, oh yeah, that's probably fine. But when push comes to shove and he actually is applying and he's up against a bunch of students who did all of the courses in their high school, it isn't necessarily going to be great. And so for that reason, I would say I would really try and take it in the school if you can.
Perfect.
So unfortunately, I think those are all the questions we have time for today. Shannon, thank you so much for being here to basically just feed me questions. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. I like putting you on the hot seat.
All right. It's kind of fun. I don't mind being there. All right. So thank you to Shannon and to Tova, my other guest today. Next week, Ian is hosting. This is not all flawless, people. And he's going to be talking about what do you do if your summer plans were canceled, if they changed. We're also going to be talking about PSAT scores and scholarships, and also how an independent counselor can help as you go through this college process this year in particular, because it is filled with a lot of big question marks that we haven't had in the past. If you have questions, as Shannon noted, you can post them on our Facebook page, but you can also send them to us, gettingin.voiceamerica@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram. Shannon runs our Instagram page and posts far more frequently than I do. One of these days I'm going to get into a groove, but I am on there. So follow me. We're at College Coach BH, but also at Elizabeth Heaton 92. And you can also check out our new website, www.getintocollege.com, and our blog, blog.getintocollege.com. And don't forget, we are here every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific.